Welcome back to 64-Bit Blackness, the show where I give a much-needed spotlight on some of our favorite black video game characters. And today we're talking about the most powerful pacifist you probably will ever meet, Macaron from Hi-Fi Rush. So Macaron used to be the head of research and development at Vandelay Industries under Roxanne Vandelay. And he, just like so many other people from around that time, were completely enamored and had a huge sense of respect for Roxanne Vandelay. Because Roxanne Vandelay wanted to help people. She wanted to use robotics and engineering to help people. She wanted to use technology to help amputees. She wanted to use it to help people with cognitive rehabilitation. Truly just use technology to make the world a better place for the people living in it. Macaron felt an attachment to that message, and I feel like a lot of people who are in the tech field and want to change the world also can kind of resonate with this. So when he actually became head of R&D for Vandelay, he was putting all his efforts forth to actualize Roxanne's vision. And although his projects took some time, he had a really good relationship with Roxanne and the other employees. As a matter of fact, Macaron had a big hand in a lot of the projects that Vandelay was working on. He was a foundational pillar of this corporate infrastructure.
Those were the good old days. Everything we did felt like it made a difference.
That's because it did.
And from the outside, no one knows any better.
And despite his intellect and wanting to innovate, he did have some flops, you know? Not every piece of machinery or automaton that he created was perfect. And that's how we end up with things like Smidge, the sentient AI fridge that really just wants you to hit it really hard. But it wasn't the masochistic tendencies that caused Smidge to be a failure. It was more so just the fact that because Macaron wanted to help people so much, he developed a lot of his artificial intelligence systems and his algorithms to function as to truly understand who they're serving. So by that, I mean a lot of his projects, the Robotic Con, were very judgmental and very invasive. Like they would get into your mind and do very unauthorized psychological analysis of you and try to essentially help you correct that or get you out of that funk, or just say some shit about yourself you don't want to hear in the open. But the funny thing is, this all came from Macaron and his just wanting to help people and his level of over caring or over compassion, if that's even a thing. His technology being able to get under people's skins like that or get into people's minds, he felt pretty responsible from that, because that was an offshoot of how much he cared about people. So to keep him in check, he created an entire robot to stop him from being that invasive and judgmental, and it would be probably just as judgmental and invasive as him, but in a more friendly way. And we know that robot as Cinnamon. And Cinnamon's main purpose was to help Macaron be a better person and be less judgmental, be less invasive, and just really be respectful and a kind individual. So we could see that technology can be used for good, even if it goes a bit too far, if the creator has a conscience. And I love Macaron because of that. He's such a kind man. He's such a gentle giant. But the one thing that does piss him off is Zonzo.
Zonzo!
Now, the only way Zonzo comes into the picture is after Kale Vandelay does his hostile takeover, which is essentially brainwashing his mom into giving him the company so he can control the world. He immediately got Macaron out of there. He fired Macaron and replaced him with Zonzo, who would now be the new head of research and development. Because of Zonzo's rise to power in research and development, this left Macaron pretty much shafted. He got a smaller team, a smaller budget, and any of his ideas were just kind of pushed to the wayside. But the thing is, Macaron knew something was wrong. He felt as if something was wrong, but that gentle giant side of him prevented him from actually taking action, because Macaron's a pacifist and he didn't want to act by himself and go out and pursue needless violence to try to set things right in the name of Roxanne Vandelay. So instead of actively making action, what he did instead was he went online. He went online, chat rooms, forums, whatever you could find tech nerds, and he was letting out his frustrations there. And that's where he ran into Peppermint, because Peppermint was also using online and forums to try to get as much information about Vandelay Industries, as well as shit talk them, because her brother Kale Vandelay is just the worst. Now, during these little conversations Macaron would have with Peppermint in these online chat rooms, he wasn't showing feet. No, he was not. Now, during their conversations in these online chat rooms, Macaron tipped Peppermint off to this project called Spectre, which essentially is like a giant mind control AI virus that Kale wants to spread to everybody who has Vandelay Industries cybernetics. Essentially, if you got something from Vandelay Industries, you were you were subjected to be brainwashed by this fucking guy. And once Peppermint gets that tip, that essentially sets things into motion for the chain of events that happen in the game. Like, this is essentially the start of the game. Peppermint didn't know this, but Macaron didn't really do much besides talk shit online. He would never push management. He would never like harass him. He would never like vocally be against it or talk anything about management in the new way Vandelay Tech had it. He kept all of his frustrations online because he just doesn't want to fight. But he used his knowledge of those systems to just annoy Zanzo, to hold him back, to restrict him, to do anything he can to deter all of Zanzo's projects from being successes. But I think it's around maybe verse 3 or 4 in the game where Chai eventually ends up fighting one of Zanzo's newest creations that has this thing called Z shielding, which is just like a very, very dense and thick, like polychrome. I don't know the fucking science behind it. He made some very tough material. This is cartoon vibranium. That doesn't make sense because vibranium is already fictional, but you understand how tough this stuff is. Chai is defeated by Zanzo's heavily armored automaton, gets sent flying, and that ends up causing him to meet Macaron. And Macaron, being faced with Chai and Peppermint and their actual resistance against the Vandelay Industries, makes him realize that he's been too pacifistic if he wants to see change. Because Macaron truly does not want to fight, but he realizes that he has to save Vandelay Industries. But alongside his friends who want to have a better future for everybody in town, Macaron found himself being a freedom fighter through his technology and through his ability to actually want to make change. And with the help of these same friends, they work hard to restore Vandelay Industries to its prior success. They freed Roxanne Vandelay from the mind control of Kale. And now Macaron spends the rest of his days inventing and creating for a future that he wants, alongside the rest of Vandelay Technologies. And you know that we give our flowers out around here, so we're going to be giving a huge shout out to Macaron's voice actor, Gabe Kunda, who's been putting in a lot of work in the voice acting scene. You know, they just got the opportunity to voice act Blade in Marvel Rivals, and I think their performance here as Macaron may be my favorite performance of theirs, just because they're able to bring so much heart and sincerity to this character. They're able to bring that kind of like reluctant will to want to do what's right, that kind of timidness that only a very big and bulky person can have. I think they do that really great, but they've also done so many other fantastic roles. So big ups for Gabe, and we do want you to succeed and thrive and prosper in everything that you do. Much love.